In the heart of the glittering emirate, beneath chandeliers dripping with crystals like frozen tears, the billionaire sheikh stood by his great window, staring out over his empire's golden spires. Yet tonight, the city's usual dazzling glow reflected only shadows of ruin. His breath hitched, pride battered by whispers of betrayal, cutting deeper than any desert wind. The sands of his dominion were slipping through his fingers, faster than he could grasp. The silk on his robe whispered secrets as he paced the vast marble hall, every step echoing his mounting desperation. All his empire, built on ruthless power and unwavering control, teetered on the abyss. Creditors loomed like vultures. Once loyal allies vanished like mirages, leaving only the endless desert silence around his isolated palace. Outside, the scent of oud drifted faintly, blending with rare perfumes that masked tension, thick enough to strangle. The palace's sprawling corridors echoed with footsteps nobody noticed, except one, a humble cleaner, cloaked in worn fabric and silence, moved with careful grace, eyes sharp beneath quiet humility. She was invisible to most, but not to him. Not anymore. Her name was Layla, a woman born from poverty, yet rich in cunning and courage. Her hands carrying the stories of the palace's shadows, whispers caught from locked rooms and hushed meetings. Tonight, she held a secret, potent enough to rebuild kingdoms or shatter them forever. From behind a velvet curtain, the Sheikh's gaze snapped to the slight figure emerging hesitantly, a flicker of defiance under her soft eyes. "You," he began, voice sharp but laced with an unfamiliar tremor. "What do you think you hold in those whispers that no one else dared?" "Speak aloud." Layla swallowed, her pulse thrumming like distant drums in the silent night. "Secrets, Your Highness. Secrets from those who want to see your throne collapse," she whispered, stepping into the amber glow. Her voice barely cracked the opulence, fragile as desert glass, but charged with undeniable truth. The Sheikh's pride roared, a tempest raging within. How dare this mere cleaner stand before him, offering salvation wrapped in menace? Yet beneath his scorn, a desperate spark flickered, a fragile hope that salvation might indeed come from this unlikely source. "Speak," he commanded, the weight of his empire pressing on him like burning sand. Layla's eyes glistened. "The debts, they are not accidental. There is betrayal within the palace walls, those closest to you." Her words hung like poisoned daggers, slicing through the gilded silence, and a ledger hidden in the east wing. "Your fortune's last breath." Pain flashed across the Sheikh's face, the raw sting of treachery mingling with a flicker of respect. Here, in the depths of his ruin, the poor cleaner was a beacon, fragile, dangerous, and fiercely alive. He stepped closer, the gulf between their worlds crackling with unspoken tension. "If this is a game," he warned, voice low, "know that I always win." Layla met his gaze steadily. "Then listen carefully, billionaire sheikh, because the truth I hold could save your empire or bury us all." As the heavy doors whispered closed behind them, a new alliance was born, fragile, fierce, and charged with peril. And before the next secret of this empire unfolds, make sure you're part of our caravan of stories. Many destinies are yet to be written, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. Leave a like if the heart of this billionaire sheikh has already caught your intrigue. Tell me in the comments, from which city are you following this saga? And what twist do you think will come next? Your passion for these dramas is what inspires us to continue. Thank you for being with us. The vast hall seemed to hold its breath as the billionaire sheikh's piercing gaze bore into Layla's trembling figure. The amber light from the crystal chandeliers painted arabesque patterns on the marble, flickering like the fragile hope that now flickered between them. Tell me everything. His voice was a low command, rough as desert stone, yet fragile beneath the weight of desperation. Layla's lips parted slowly, each word a shard of truth she carefully unwrapped. Your debts, they are engineered, Your Highness. A conspiracy was woven by those who lurk behind your throne. Friends who feign loyalty, but drink from poison chalices. The sheikh's fist clenched against the gilded windowsill. Names, he demanded. I want names. She hesitated, knowing the consequences, but defiance tempered her fear. The vizier, his smile hides a dagger, and your closest advisor, Ramiz, no pillar of honesty. A flicker of disbelief crossed his sharp features. Ramiz, the man who had stood by him through endless storms. Could treason be so close? Layla moved forward, emboldened by his attention. It is no coincidence the ledgers vanished from your private archives last winter. The ones hidden in the East Wing hold the truth. They alone can save what's left of your empire. His breath hitched. That chamber was sealed since his arrival. They said nothing could breach its protection. Yet here lay a sliver of hope, a fragment of redemption, wrapped in the courage of a woman he once deemed invisible. Why come to me? His voice softened as curiosity dug beneath his arrogance. Why risk everything for a cleaner who could vanish into the sands unnoticed? Her eyes, luminous under the golden shadows, held his steady gaze. Because I see a man bleeding beneath his crown, a man who will be king again, but only if he learns to listen beyond the opulence and silence. The room grew heavy with unspoken truths. The silk curtain quivered as a distant breeze whispered secrets only the walls remembered. A fragile alliance balanced on this precipice, both fragile and fierce. Suddenly, footsteps echoed faintly through the marble corridors, a reminder that the palace was never truly still, and danger always lingered in its veins. The sheikh's mind raced. His empire was crumbling from the inside, and yet fighting alone was a battle doomed to fail. Layla's unexpected strength ignited a fire in his chest, a desperate clawing at hope. Take me to these ledgers, he ordered, voice sharp as a scimitar's edge. Tonight, before dawn steals the truth again. Layla nodded, her heart pounding, not only from fear, but from a spark of something she rarely allowed herself, trust. As they slipped through shadowed halls, Layla narrated whispered rumors she pieced together amidst the palace's forgotten corners. Wariness clouded her voice as she recounted secret meetings cloaked in betrayal and greed. Paintbrush strokes on a canvas of ruination. The walls seemed to lean closer, bearing witness to their furtive passage, scenting the oud mixed with cold marble and faint vanilla that lingered in hidden spaces. The power of scent entwined with tension, as if the house itself held its breath. At last, they reached the towering door of the east wing, its golden engravings dimmed by time and neglect. A lock meant to guard centuries of secrets, now a prison holding the last hope. Layla's fingers trembled as she retrieved a delicate key hidden inside a threadbare glove, a treasure unearthed from the palace's moonlit ghosts. She slid it in carefully. The lock yielded with a whisper. The doors swung open, revealing walls lined with shelves of brittle manuscripts, ledgers bound in deep red leather. Dust motes danced like fleeting memories in the single shaft of moonlight, slicing through the gloom. The Sheikh moved forward with slow reverence, tracing the spine of one ancient book. If these hold the truth, then I must face what I have avoided. The cost of my pride, the price of my silence. Layla pulled out a ledger, the faint scent of ink and old paper, stronger now, a tangible link between past and present battles. Here, she said softly, every forged signature, every hidden transaction. They wanted you to fail, Your Highness, but they forgot the desert does not forget its storms. As the Sheikh's fingers brushed the ledger's pages, a surge of raw emotion cracked through his facade. Anger, betrayal, but also a tremor of gratitude toward the quiet woman, guiding him through shadows he never wished to confront. A sudden noise snapped the moment, a sharp click down the hallway. Both spun toward the sound. Steps hurried, and hushed voices broke the stillness. Layla's eyes flickered with warning. We're not alone. A silhouette emerged. Ramiz himself, eyes alight with cold calculation, flanked by palace guards. The traitor's smile was a blade sheathed in silk. Surprised to see me, Your Highness? Ramiz's voice dripped with venomous amusement. I hoped you'd remain blind a little longer. The Sheikh's jaw tensed as the room filled with a charged silence, the gulf between loyalty and treachery yawning wide. Layla moved back behind him. The flicker of fear beneath her courage now sharpened into fierce resolve. The battle for the Empire's soul was no longer hidden. It was here, in this forgotten chamber, under the gaze of a billionaire sheikh who would either rise from ashes or be consumed by them. The cold moonlight caught a glint in Ramiz's eyes, an unspoken threat that the palace's darkest secrets would soon spill into the open, and nothing would ever be the same again. The tension in the chamber thickened like the swirling desert storm outside, unseen but fierce. Ramiz's cold smile gleamed beneath the flickering moonlight, his eyes a frozen lake of treachery. The guards flanked him like shadows come to life, their presence a cruel reminder of the betrayal clawing at the Empire's heart. The billionaire sheikh's breath steadied, the fire in his gaze sharpening into steel. Every shattered piece of trust, every deceitful whisper, fueled a furnace within him. This was no longer a man broken by rumors. It was a ruler reclaiming his throne. Ramiz, the sheikh's voice crooned low, a venomous caress wrapped in regal command. I once called you brother. Now you stand as executioner with a dagger turned inward. Ramiz's laugh was hollow, echoing against marble walls. Brother, you're whoever feeds its greed. I merely took what was owed, and what you failed to protect. Layla's pulse thundered in her chest, eyes darting between the two titans. She was no pawn, no silent witness. The flicker of defiance she carried now blazed into a flame. Your Highness, she breathed, voice cutting through the charged silence. There's no victory in turning on those who build you up. These ledgers, the truth they hold, it can unravel their schemes and renew your reign. The Sheikh's gaze softened, just for a fraction, toward the woman who had stepped from shadows into light. But that softness was a dagger's edge away from shattering under the weight of centuries of betrayal. He stepped forward, closing the space, his silhouette framed by opulent gold accents, glowing softly under chandelier light. Tell me again, Layla, how deep does this conspiracy run? She swallowed, feeling the vastness of the moment. Deeper than the roots of your oldest palm trees. The vizier is the serpent, coiled at the heart, poison seeping from his smile. Ramiz, he is the blade that strikes blindly, cutting your ties to those who might still stand loyal. A slow, ruthless smile crept across the Sheikh's face. A prince born from storms, hardened in solitude. Then it seems the palace itself is a battlefield of shadows. Ramiz took a step closer, voice a silken threat. And you have no allies left willing to bleed for you. The Sheikh's laugh held the sharpness of cracked glass. I need no allies who feast on my ruin. His gaze flickered to the ledger in Layla's hands. These are my last threads of hope. If I pull one, will the whole empire unravel? Or will it weave a new dawn? Layla's fingers gripped the leather-bound tome tighter. The choice lies within their pages, but it is a dangerous thread to pull, Your Highness. Once the truth reveals itself, every secret, every lie will bleed into the open. Suddenly, a sound, a soft creak from the far end of the hall, shattered the fragile stillness. The three turned sharply, breath held captive. From the shadows emerged a delicate figure, cloaked in the jasmine-scented hush of the night. A woman, draped in midnight blue silk, eyes blazing with hidden fires. Her presence rippled through the air, commanding, yet veiled in mystery. She will bring what you fear most, Ramiz whispered, lips curling into a cruel grin. The Sheikh's jaw clenched. Recognition flashed in his eyes. Nadia, the enigma who haunted whispered rumors and forbidden tales alike. The woman who wielded secrets like weapons, and whose allegiance was as shifting as the desert sands. Nadia, the Sheikh intoned, voice rougher, heavier. What game are you playing beneath these shadows? Her smile was a knife wrapped in velvet. The only game left worth playing. The empire you cling to is built on illusions, and I have come to reveal the final act. Layla's breath hitched as Nadia's gaze swept the room, sharp, calculating. A tempest contained within fragile form. The Sheikh stepped protectively in front of Layla, the defiant cleaner, now a fragile flame against encroaching darkness. Whatever you bring, this night will end with the truth laid bare. Nadia's eyes flickered with dark amusement. Oh, it will be laid bare, all right. But at what cost, Your Highness? A heavy silence settled. Even the marble seemed to hold its breath. Each soul in the chamber felt the delicate balance teetering between salvation and destruction. The Sheikh's hands curled into fists at his sides, resolve ringing through his every line. I have faced storms and survived. This empire is not yet done with me. Layla met his gaze, her own filled with fierce promise. Then, together, we face whatever dawn this night delivers. The sharp click of the heavy doors sealing behind them was the final note of a symphony that had only just begun. Outside, the desert winds shifted, whispering a warning, carried on the hot breath of the night. And somewhere deep within the labyrinth of palace corridors, a silent shadow slipped away, bearing a message that would shatter illusions far beyond the reach of tonight's chamber. The secret Nadia held was no ordinary weapon. It was the key to a revelation that could topple kingdoms and ignite wars unlike any seen before. And as the moonlight caught the glint of a hidden blade in her palm, the billionaire Sheikh's fate hung precariously on the edge of a knife. The heavy scent of jasmine and oud clung to the air, weaving an intoxicating tension that thickened with every heartbeat in the chamber. The billionaire Sheikh stood rigid, regal yet raw, as Ramiz's cold smirk carved lines of danger across the marble floor. The guard's eyes shimmered like dark embers, ready to ignite chaos at a single command. Layla's breath hitched, a silent plea caught in the space between dread and determination. She shuffled cautiously closer to the Sheikh, her slender fingers still clutching the ancient ledger like a talisman of hope amid the shadows. Ramiz's voice sliced through the stillness, laced with venom. You think you can undo what's been set in motion? This empire was never truly yours. It was merely a passing shadow in the grand desert winds. The Sheikh's eyes flared, crystalline and burning. You forget who commands the desert storms, Ramiz. I am the tempest you cannot outrun. His words fell like thunderclaps, charging the room with electric defiance. Layla's gaze drilled into Ramiz. Your Highness, she urged softly, these ledgers contain the truth, proof of their deceit. If we can expose their betrayal, we can sever their poison at its root. The Sheikh turned sharply, his scarred hands trembling just slightly as they hovered over the fragile pages. His mind raced through memories, nights spent alone in this very hall, forged alliances now ash, promises shattered like brittle glass. Ramiz, you will answer for this treason. The Sheikh declared, voice low but unyielding. But first, we unearth the truth buried beneath their lies. Suddenly, the grand door behind Ramiz creaked open, and a figure slipped silently into the chamber. The air shifted, colder, heavier, like a storm swelling on the horizon. The newcomer's eyes gleamed with a ruthless calm. Dressed in midnight blue silk, her presence was a paradox of beauty and danger. Nadia, the Sheikh breathed, barely masking the tremor in his voice. Her lips curved into an enigmatic smile. You summoned me indirectly, it seems. The room's weight grew unbearable, the tension knotting tight between past betrayals and the fragile alliance forming in silence. Nadia's gaze lingered on Layla, sharp and assessing. So this is the cleaner who dares to hold the secrets that could topple kings. Layla met her stare without flinching, feeling the heat of a silent war ignite. "I hold nothing but truth," she said steadily, "and the hope to rebuild what's been broken." Nadia stepped forward, the silk brushing the cold marble like a whispered threat. Hope or delusion wrapped in desperation? The Sheikh's gaze wavered momentarily, the weight of 1,000 battles etched in the crease of his brow. Yet beneath it all, the spark of defiance blazed fiercely. "Enough," he commanded, voice steely. "There is no room for your games tonight." Nadia's smile deepened. "Games? No, Sheikh. This is the final act of a play long written in shadows and whispers. And I am here to reveal the truth, whether the empire stands or falls." Layla's fingers clenched the ledger tighter, feeling its rough texture like the heartbeat of the palace itself. "Let it be revealed then," she dared, before more. "Lives are consumed by lies," Ramiz sneered, stepping closer. "And if your precious truth destroys what remains, what then?" The Sheikh's laugh was cold, slicing through the thick silence. "Then it is better to burn in the flames of justice than rot in the puppeteer's shadows." Nadia's eyes sparkled with something fierce, almost reverent. "You speak like a man who believes in rebirth from ashes, but every fire leaves scars." His gaze locked onto hers, unwavering. "I wear my scars like crowns." Suddenly a harsh sound shattered the charged quiet. Harsh footsteps echoing from the corridor. The three froze, senses alert. A slender hand slipped from the folds of Nadia's silk, a glint of cold steel catching the chandelier light. The room held its breath. Then a whisper broke the tension. "You don't know everything yet, Sheikh," Nadia said softly. "There is one more secret buried deeper than these ledgers." The Sheikh's eyes narrowed, pulse quickening with equal parts dread and resolve. "Speak," he demanded. Her gaze flickered with cold amusement. "Not here, not now, but soon. And when it surfaces, your throne will tremble." Layla's chest tightened. She felt the fragile threads of their fragile alliance stretching thin. Ramiz's smirk twisted into something darker. "Looks like the storm has only just begun." Suddenly, without warning, the doors to the chamber thundered open. A rush of cold desert wind swept inside, carrying with it the faint scent of smoke and distant thunder. The Sheikh stepped forward, shield raised, not just to protect Layla, but his entire legacy. As the night deepened outside, the palace seemed to pulse with unseen eyes, watching their every move. Within that heavy silence, a single thought burned bright. In the Sheikh's mind, the empire's fate and his own would be decided before the next dawn. And in the shadows just beyond sight, a silent figure retreated, clutching a folded letter sealed with an ominous crest, a message that could ignite the final war for power, love, and survival. The Sheikh's breath caught, trembling with cold fire, as the truth he sought twisted into something far more dangerous than he ever imagined. The storm was rising, and the desert would never forget. The heavy doors closed behind them with a final, resonant thud, sealing the chamber in a silence thick enough to suffocate. The flickering candlelight cast wavering shadows across the walls. shadows that seemed to dance with secrets, too dangerous to speak aloud. The billionaire Sheikh's eyes never left Nadia as she stepped fully into the room, the silk of her midnight blue dress whispering against the cold marble floor. Her presence was a storm wrapped in beauty, unpredictable, fierce. "Why reveal yourself now, Nadia?" His voice was low, a mixture of suspicion and something unspoken, as if a ghost from his past haunted the present. Her dark eyes held a smirk that was both an invitation and a warning. "Because the palace walls have ears, and the game has changed. You can no longer afford the luxury of ignorance." Her gaze slipped past him, lingering on Layla with a curiosity that bordered on calculation. "And this cleaner claims to carry the weight of your salvation." Layla stood firm, the ledger still clutched against her chest like armor. Her heartbeat thrummed beneath the opulent ceiling, steady but fierce. She had come from nothing, and yet here she stood, at the lacerated heart of a crumbling empire. The Sheikh's jaws clenched tightly. Every betrayal, every whispered lie, was now a vivid scar etched deep within him. "Speak, then. What is this final secret that threatens to topple what little remains?" Nadia's smile deepened, shadows flickering in her gaze like the desert night. "Not all secrets are meant to be unearthed in daylight, Sheikh. Some must fester in the dark before they consume their victims." The air pulsed between them, electric with tension. The cold draft creeping beneath the doors seemed to suck the warmth from the cavernous room. "Enough riddles," the Sheikh snapped, stepping forward, the weight of his gold-threaded robe heavy upon him, but the fire in his eyes heavier still. "If you hold the key to my empire's survival, then show it. Now." Nadia raised a delicate hand, the faint glint of a folded parchment, catching the candlelight. "This letter," she said softly, "holds the truth of those who conspire not just against your fortune, but against everything you stand for." Layla's breath hitched as the Sheikh took the letter, feeling its fragile weight like the entire desert upon his palms. Unfolding it with care that belied urgency, he scanned the elegant script, a masterpiece of betrayal penned with deliberate cruelty. The names listed in that letter were deadly truths. Allies turned vultures, trusted advisors morphing into vipers. But one line clawed its way into his core, a plot to sell off the ultimate jewel of his empire, a secret oil reserve buried beneath the sands, the very foundation of his reign. "Ramiz," his voice cracked with cold fury, "you have sold my legacy for coins and comfort." The memory of Ramiz's smirk, the calculated ease of his betrayal, was a blade lodged within the fortress of the Sheikh's pride. He looked at Layla, the woman whose courage defied her station. "Why did you risk everything to bring me this?" Her eyes met his, soft yet unyielding. "Because beneath the crown you wear is a man who still commands the desert storms. They fear you, and I believe in the storm." A sudden movement at the heavy door caught every eye. A lone guard stepped in, breath ragged, eyes wide with panic. "Your Highness, the East Wing, more men have gathered outside. This is no accident. The palace plots are unfolding in real time." The Sheikh's pulse thundered, a drumbeat calling him back into the arena he swore to conquer. He folded the letter and tucked it into the folds of his robe. "We have no time for shadows. Layla, prepare. Tonight we reclaim not just the ledgers, but our future." Nadia's gaze hardened, stepping closer to the Sheikh, so close that the scent of jasmine and oud wrapped around them like a silken noose. "Be wary," she whispered. "This war is not simply for power. There are forces here you have yet to reckon with." The room seemed to constrict, the golden filigree of the walls pulsating with the thrill of the imminent battle. Layla's fingers tightened around the ancient ledger, a talisman of hope amid the encroaching darkness. Together, the unlikely trio, the Sheikh, the Cleaner, and the Enigma, moved towards the door that led to Betrayal's heart, the palace courtyard, where allegiance would be tested by fire. As they stepped into the chill of the night air, the desert breeze carried a portent whispered among the dunes, an unseen reckoning hurtling toward them with the weight of sand and storm. The Sheikh's voice was a low vow against the rising tumult. If they believe the throne is theirs to claim, they will learn the storms do not bow. Behind them, the silk curtains quivered, as if the palace itself shuddered in anticipation. And in the shadows beyond, a hidden hand traced the edge of a dagger. A silent promise gifted to the night. The Empire's darkest secrets were far from buried. The real game was about to begin. The chill of the desert night seeped through the vast palace walls, carrying with it a whisper of impending chaos. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine and oud, swirling around the three figures standing in the dimly lit chamber, a triumvirate bound by fragile trust and deadly secrets. The billionaire Sheikh's gaze never wavered from the folded letter clutched tightly in his hand. The words burned deep into his mind. Betrayal knotted his chest, yet beneath the raw ache, a flame of unyielding resolve bloomed fiercely. He was no stranger to storms, and this night would be no different. Behind him, Layla's breath fluttered like a captive bird, yet her stance was unwavering. The ledger pressed against her like a shield forged from truth and courage. Her eyes met his, a silent beacon, daring him to believe in the possibility of redemption, even when every shadow in the palace whispered of ruin. Nadia's presence was a dark tide flooding the room, her cool smile masking layers of cunning and threat. The silk of her midnight blue gown seemed to drink in the sparse light, weaving shadow and seduction into every step she took closer to the Sheikh. "We move now," the Sheikh commanded, voice like cracked glass sharpened by desperation. Every moment wasted is a dagger turning deeper into this empire's heart. Layla nodded, her fingers trembling, not from fear, but the weight of what lay ahead. The cold marble beneath their feet seemed to hum in anticipation as they stepped toward the heavy door that led to the heart of betrayal. Outside, the palace was alive with whispers, servants speaking in hushed tones, footsteps flickering like ghosts along endless corridors. Shadows gathered beyond the ornate arches, soldiers and traders circling with predatory patience. As the door creaked open, moonlight spilled in, casting spectral patterns across the floor. The courtyard lay before them, an arena of shifting loyalties and silent wars, where every breath could herald salvation or death. The Sheikh scanned the dark figures assembled beyond the walls. His lips tightened into a thin line. Rames's reach has stretched wide, he murmured, voice a mixture of disgust and bitter acknowledgement. But we still hold the sands beneath our feet. Layla's gaze flickered to the ancient ledger, its pages a map of cunning betrayal and hidden truths. They rely on fear, she said softly, but fear feeds on silence. Tonight, we break that silence. Nadia's eyes glimmered with icy fire. You underestimate the cost of peeling back these layers. What you expose may shatter more than just alliances. It could destroy the very foundation your blood built. The Sheikh stepped forward, the weight of his golden robes a tangible symbol of the burden he bore. Better to face destruction with open eyes than to die blinded by illusion. A gust of wind stirred the jasmine blossoms, hanging from the courtyard pergola, their petals drifting like fragile promises over the marbled floor. The night held its breath as the trio moved deeper into the labyrinthine palace, the oppressive walls seeming to close in around them. Every step echoed the pounding of 1,000 battles fought in silence. Whispers of treachery, the clink of hidden keys, the rustle of forbidden parchment. Layla's knowledge of the palace's dark corridors was their only guide in the shadowed maze, where every corner could conceal a knife or a traitor's smile. Suddenly, a faint sound shattered the fragile tension, the soft pad of footsteps approaching. The Sheikh's eyes narrowed into slits as he instinctively shifted, placing himself between Layla and the unknown danger. From the darkness emerged a young messenger, hastily clutching a folded note sealed with the same ominous crest. Breathless, the boy extended it toward the Sheikh. "Your Highness," he gasped, "the East Wing is surrounded. More soldiers loyal to Rames gather. They plan to seize the archives at dawn." The Sheikh's jaw clenched so tightly that the muscles trembled beneath his skin. "Then we have little time," he muttered, breaking the seal and scanning the hastily scrawled words. The message was a summons, a call to rally the last loyalists within the palace, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. Layla stepped closer, her voice a calm anchor amidst the rising storm. "We must reach the hidden archives first, before Rames's men can silence any remnants of truth." Nadia's gaze flicked to the great windows overlooking the city's golden spires, now swallowed by shadows. "This is the final act, Sheikh," she whispered. "But not all players are ready to bow. Some will burn their own to see you fall." The Sheikh inhaled, the scent of incense and impending war filling his lungs. In that moment, the king remembered the price of power, the loneliness of the throne, the hidden battles behind silken veils, the constant war between pride and survival. He reached out, his hand brushing Layla's briefly, a gesture both tender and commanding. "You have done what none dared, Layla. Your silence has been my cage. Tonight, we set it free." Her eyes shimmered with a storm of emotions, fear, hope, and something deeper, a bond forged in fire and whispered truths. Together, they surged forward, the ancient corridors swallowing their footsteps as the palace stirred into a living beast, throbbing with secrets and danger. Suddenly, as they approached a fork in the passage, a shadow detached itself from the gloom, a figure cloaked in dusk, movement ghost-like and deliberate. The Sheikh stopped cold, every muscle coiled like a spring. The figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face. Zara, the palace's most trusted spy, eyes gleaming with unreadable emotion. "Your Highness," she murmured, voice laced with urgency. "There's a price to what we seek. Rames's power runs deeper than you know. He's not alone in this war." The Sheikh's gaze darkened, the weight of the empire pressing down like scorching sand. "Then it seems," he said slowly, voice a blade melting through the night, "our enemies are no longer just shadows behind palace walls." Zara's lips curled slightly. "And one among us has already been promised to another." The three exchanged tense looks, a silent understanding that the battlefield had expanded beyond politics into the poisoned realm of betrayal, love, and allegiance. Behind them, the walls seemed to whisper warnings, and somewhere deep in the palace, the delicate web of secrets began to unravel. The Sheikh's breath hitched as the flickering torchlight revealed a new threat. A letter slipped beneath his door, sealed with a blood-red emblem belonging to the desert's most dangerous faction. He broke the wax carefully, unfolding the parchment with trembling hands. His eyes darted across the words, a dire ultimatum wrapped in silk and venom. "To keep your empire, Sheikh," the message read, "you must sacrifice the one who stands closest to your heart." The ink blurred momentarily as he clenched the paper. Rage and desperation collided, the storm within him raging unabated. His gaze found Layla's, her expression a mixture of shock and unmasked fear. The palace beyond their sanctuary seemed to pulse with an ominous heartbeat. The choice laid bare between the empire, the throne, and the fragile love they had begun to forge. The desert wind howled outside as the doors creaked open once more. A voice, smooth as silk and sharp as a dagger, echoed from the shadows. "Choose wisely, Sheikh. Because some storms devour not only empires, but souls." The room darkened in an instant, and the fate of the billionaire Sheikh, the cleaner who dared hope, and their deadly alliance, hung suspended, trembling, fragile, on the edge of the coming dawn. The night whispered promises of upheaval as the trio slipped deeper into the labyrinthine heart of the palace. The echo of their footsteps melded with the distant call of desert winds, carrying an ominous melody that wrapped around every shadowed corner. The golden spires beyond the windows were now dim silhouettes, swallowed by an encroaching darkness, a mirror of the empire's fragile fate. The billionaire Sheikh's gaze cut through the gloom, sharp and unyielding. Every line etched on his face told of battles endured, empires built and nearly lost. Beside him, Layla's steady presence was a quiet defiance against the storm. Her grip around the ancient ledger never faltered, the fragile weight of truth pressed against her chest like a talisman against despair. Nadia's steps trailed silently, not quite an ally, never quite a foe, her dark eyes reflecting the flicker of candlelight, and something far colder, deeper. Secrets clung to her like the scent of jasmine and oud, intoxicating yet treacherous. The corridor narrowed, walls closing in, as if the palace itself conspired against them. A sudden shift of air, faint and electric, brushed past the Sheikh's nape. His instincts flared, muscles coiling beneath gold-trimmed robes. The night was alive with unseen eyes. Ahead, the heavy wooden doors of the hidden archives rose before them. Jewels in fading gold leaf. Silence reigning heavy as graveyards. Layla's trembling fingers found the aged key nestled deep within her sleeve. She slid it in. The lock sighed open, releasing a breath bottled by decades of secrets. Inside, time felt suspended. Rows of dusty tomes and leather-bound ledgers stood like sentinels, guardians of legacies and lies. The Sheikh's dark eyes swept the room, a surge of vulnerability rippling beneath his commanding facade. Here lay not just papers, but the soul of his empire, fragile and exposed. He lifted a tome, the scent of ancient parchment filling the air, a perfume of history and pain. As pages turned, the truth unfolded like a knife. Names scrawled in neat script, betrayals inked with the cold hand of greed. The ledger was a map of treason, weaving the vizier's serpentine plots and Ramiz's fatal strikes against loyalty. Layla's voice broke the thick silence, soft but unwavering. Every transaction, every forged seal, it all leads to one truth. This palace is crumbling from within. The Sheikh's jaw clenched, rage and sorrow warring in his storm-filled eyes. They traded my honor for coin, for power that will burn them all. A sudden clatter echoed sharply. A misstep or a trap sprung too soon. Metal feet clicked with deadly purpose. From the shadows emerged, figures cloaked in midnight black. Forced loyalty twisted into threats. Ramiz's cold smirk cut like shattered glass. Not so fast, Sheikh. His voice coiled with venom. The game ends tonight. Choose whose side you stand on. The past that failed, or the men who can seize the future. The Sheikh's eyes burned furious as he stepped forward. The weight of his crown and broken faith, heavy but unbowed. I stand with truth, and with those brave enough to wield it. Layla moved beside him, heart pounding, but thorned with steel. We have the ledger. We have their lies. Now, we have a chance to strip their masks. Nadia's gaze flickered between them, a dangerous fire kindling beneath shadows. And the cost? Betrayals cut deeper than blades. Lives lost to save an empire built on sand. The Sheikh's voice was steel, forged in desert flames. Better to die in the light than to rot in the dark. As the guards advanced, a sudden explosion of motion shattered the quiet. The trio split apart like a desert storm, scattering grains of sand. The Sheikh's hand found Layla's wrist, firm, urgent. This way. Down winding passageways, soaked in cold marble and heavy scents of crushed rose petals, they fled. The palace had become a serpent, twisting and striking with every heartbeat. In a secluded chamber lined with mirrors, the Sheikh halted, breath ragged but eyes blazing. This empire's heart beats in those ledgers. If they fall, so does everything. Layla nodded, fierce yet vulnerable. And if we expose the truth, the palace will never be the same. The door burst open suddenly, light flooding in with a cascade of silver. Nadia stood silhouetted, silk swirling like midnight tides, her eyes aflame. You cannot fight ghosts without becoming one. The Sheikh's gaze locked with hers, trembling with a tempest of emotions, distrust, fascination, and a reluctant acknowledgement of shared fate. But before words could cut deeper, a shadow slipped through the crack in the door, a folded note thrust into Layla's hand. Her fingers shook as she unfolded it. The script was jagged, urgent. To protect what you love, a sacrifice must be made. Blood will stain what you hold dear. Choose wisely, or all is lost. The icy edge of dread spiraled upward, settling in the pit of the Sheikh's stomach. The palace had cast its final die. Layla's voice was barely a whisper, trembling not from fear, but broken hope. What sacrifice? The Sheikh's eyes darkened to stormy abyss. Not all battles are won with swords. Some are won at an unbearable price. Outside, the desert wind howled a mournful song as distant thunder rumbled, nature's echo of impending war. Together, they stood at the crossroads of destiny. The ledger between them, secrets unraveling, like the threads of their own fragile alliance. And somewhere, deep in the shadows, another hand traced the curve of a dagger, poised to cut deeper than any wound before. The fate of the billionaire Sheikh, Layla, and their empire now teetered on the edge of a knife, ready to fall or to carve a new dawn from the darkness that surrounded them. The heavy parchment trembled slightly in the billionaire Sheikh's grasp, the inked ultimatum burning like wildfire beneath his skin. The cold, gifted beneath palace lights, felt suddenly like a cruel frost settling deep in his bones. Outside, the desert wind carried the scent of jasmine and smoldering embers, a ghostly prelude to the night's gathering storm. Layla's eyes searched his, wide and expectant, her breath caught between hope and despair. The fragile thread of trust woven from their shared secrets now seemed a lifeline stretched against the abyss. Her hands gripped the ancient ledger tighter, the worn leather, a tangible testament to their perilous quest for truth. The whispered warning whispered again through the chamber. The choice laid bare, empire's legacy, or the fragile love blossoming in the shadows. Neither path offered safety, yet both demanded sacrifice. A faint click echoed beyond the thick chamber door, puncturing the tense silence like the crack of a whip. The Sheikh's steel gaze snapped toward the sound, his posture coiling with instinctive readiness. From the dim corridor slipped a figure cloaked in midnight blue silk. The enigma, Nadia, her eyes glittering with untold secrets and a smile that was both dagger and invitation. "You tread dangerous ground, Sheikh," she murmured, voice silken, yet edged with steel. "Some sacrifices leave scars deeper than the desert sands." He stepped forward, the weight of his crown heavy on his shoulders, but the fire within undiminished. "I have worn every scar and lived to wear more if it means reclaiming what is mine." Nadia's gaze flickered to Layla, whose breath hitched, but who met the challenge without fear. And the cleaner, her voice softened, carrying a cruel tenderness. "She is more than she seems. To protect her is to challenge the fate that haunts these halls." Layla's fingers tightened on the ledger as she took a step forward, voice steady, though her heart thundered a warning she barely acknowledged. "I stand because this empire is worth fighting for, because beneath the opulence you command beats a heart still capable of justice. The air thickened as distant footsteps echoed closer, the murmur of conspirators converging like a desert whirlwind gathering strength. The palace walls seemed to lean in, their gilded surfaces swallowing the fragile promise of loyalty. A shadow detached itself from the depths of the hallway. Zara, the palace's most trusted spy, her eyes sharp as falcons surveying the unfolding war. The message sealed with crimson wax contains more than threats, she whispered, voice urgent. It's a summons, a call for blood. The enemy moves not only in shadows, but within. The Sheikh's breath caught, every muscle tightening beneath golden robes that whispered tales of ancient glory. Then we have no time to waste on hesitation. The palace must tremble with truth before dawn. Layla's gaze flickered to the staircase, dusted with moonlight, her mind tuning into every silent creak and whisper of desert wind that sought to betray them. The ledger was their shield, the truth their only weapon against tides of treachery that threatened to drown them all. As they moved silently through the palace, the rich aroma of oud and crushed rose petals wove through the air, a stark contrast to the cold calculation behind every locked door and veiled whisper. Every corridor unfolded a new realm of danger. Every glance behind carried the weight of betrayal. The Sheikh's heart pounded, a relentless drumbeat, stitching together the hurricane of thoughts. Father's legacy, a crown nearly torn from his grasp. The fragile promise of something more than rain, a love unspoken, fragile yet defiant. Suddenly, the muted flicker of torchlight revealed a figure lurking at the edge of their path. Ramiz, his cold smile a crescent moon of malice. His eyes shimmered with the venom of a viper. Every line of his face, a map of treachery, etched in shadow. Well? Ramiz's voice cut through the night like a whip's crack. Voice smooth, but thick with contempt. You play with fire, Sheikh, but some flames burn too bright to be controlled. The Sheikh's gaze hardened, the weight of broken brotherhood settling over him like a tempest. Your treasons have been counted. Now you face the storm you summoned. Layla stepped beside him, her voice sharp as the desert wind. We hold the truth, and it burns hotter than your lies. Ramiz's laugh was cold steel biting marble. Truth is a weapon of fools. Power is earned, stolen, and kept by those who wield it without mercy. The tension erupted like thunder, each word a lightning strike, fracturing the fragile balance. Guards began to emerge, shadows lengthening, blades gleaming faintly beneath torchlight. Before the clash, the Sheikh's eyes flickered to the folded letter, still tucked in his robes. The last whisper of a threat and a promise. Nadia's secret, he whispered, voice thick with weight. There is a darkness deeper than any ledger. 9 lies weave one deadly truth, Nadia said softly, stepping forward. And it is hidden where none dare look. A sudden gust of wind blew through the chamber, carrying a faint hiss, a warning, a curse, or perhaps a final breath before chaos. The Sheikh's jaw clenched, then let the Desert witness, no secret is safe when the storm rises. Layla's hand found his, a touch fleeting but fierce, grounding him amid the swirling tempest. We face it together, for the empire and for what we dared to hope. The marble floor beneath them seemed to pulse as if alive, echoing the rhythm of a battle soon to erupt, not only for power, but for redemption, for love, and for the fragile dreams forged in desert shadows. And deep within the palace walls, hidden away in a secret chamber, suffused with moonlight and dust, a silent figure awaited, her features concealed beneath a veil, her hands stained with the blood of secrets yet to be spilled. The final game had begun, and the fate of the billionaire Sheikh, Layla, and all they held dear teetered on the edge of a dagger's blade. As the first distant echoes of dawn stirred the horizon, the chamber door creaked open to reveal a single burning candle. A whispered voice, barely audible, but cutting sharper than any sword, broke the heavy silence. The storm does not forget, and neither will the desert. The first light of dawn painted the horizon with streaks of gold and rose, casting a gentle glow over the emirate that had seemed, just hours before, wrapped in shadows of betrayal and fear. Within the palace, the silence was no longer heavy. It was filled with the breath of newfound hope. The billionaire Sheikh stood beneath the vast arched window of the grand hall, the ancient ledger now resting safely locked away in the royal archives. His robes, once symbols of burden and defeat, now seemed to ripple with renewed strength as the first soft breeze carried the scent of fresh jasmine through the open doors. The weight of the empire still rested on his shoulders, but it no longer crushed him. Instead, it was a mantle embraced with wisdom earned through pain. Beside him, Layla's hand found his, warm, steady, a quiet anchor in a world that had once threatened to drown him. Her eyes, once shadowed by fear and uncertainty, now shone with a fierce light that matched the brilliance of the rising sun. She was no longer the invisible presence hidden beneath worn fabrics. She was the heart that had dared to dream, to fight, and to heal. Together, they looked out over the city's golden spires, now vibrant and alive, a reflection of the renewed spirit flowing through the palace and beyond. The ledgers they had uncovered, filled with betrayal and deceit, had become instruments of justice rather than weapons of ruin. The corrupt vizier and Ramiz, once masters of manipulation, had been exposed and removed, their webs unraveled by undeniable truth. The palace, once a maze of treachery, was now a sanctuary being rebuilt with the sweat and sincerity of those loyal to a rightful reign. The halls echoed no longer with whispered schemes, but with footsteps of allies returning. Voices lifted in cautious but genuine celebration. The court, draped in rich silks and hopeful smiles, spoke of peace and restoration, the kind that springs not merely from power regained, but from trust restored. The Sheikh's enemies had underestimated the desert storms within him. His strength was reborn, not through ruthlessness, but through the courage to accept help, the humility to face truths hard-spoken, and the grace to forgive those lost along a darker path. In the quiet sanctuary of a blooming palace garden, where fragrant roses unfurled their petals beneath a soft sky, the Sheikh and Layla walked side by side. The cool morning air was alive with possibility. The garden seemed to hold a sacred promise that even amidst desolation, life could flourish anew. Their conversation was gentle, words steeped in the clarity that only hard-won peace can bring. The Sheikh's voice, deep and steady, carried a softness reserved for moments carved from intimacy. "You saved more than my empire, Layla. You saved me." She smiled, the vulnerability once hidden beneath her resilience, now a bridge between two souls. "We saved each other. Your empire was never just about gold and thrones. It was about the people and the love they deserved." His gaze met hers, rich with gratitude and a tender fierceness. He saw not a cleaner beneath a veil of humility, but a queen who had matched his storms with unwavering light. A bond forged in secrets and sacrifices, hardened through battles fought in silence, and now sealed with a promise of forever. The sky blushed with the sunrise, as the first tendrils of warmth touched their hands intertwined. The past, the betrayals, the long nights of doubt, the blade of treachery, had been left behind like footprints in the shifting desert sands. Ahead lay a future uncharted, but theirs to shape together. Back within the palace, the restored council gathered beneath crystal chandeliers that glittered with fresh clarity, reflecting the unity now binding them. Whispers of old wounds gave way to pledges of loyalty and rebuilding. The scars of yesterday transformed into the foundation of tomorrow. As the sun crowned the sky, the Sheikh stepped forward to address those before him, not as a ruler struck down by deceit, but as a man crowned by courage and redemption. "We rise, not because no storm dared to challenge us, but because the storms revealed what was strongest within us." His voice resonated, firm yet warm. "This empire belongs to all who cherish its people and its promise. Together, we build a legacy not of shadows, but of light." A murmur of agreement rustled through the hall. Faces once wary now glowed with hope. The journey had been brutal, but the destination was clear. Justice tempered by mercy, power balanced with humility, love nurtured through trials. Later, in the stillness of evening, the Sheikh and Layla stood upon the palace balcony, the stars blooming overhead like countless sentinels watching. Over the city, the night was calm, a sacred mirror to the peace finally finding root within their hearts. She rested her head against his shoulder, and in the quiet space between them, all the words unspoken were louder than any declaration. The empire had been tested by fire, and they had emerged, not unscarred, but unbowed. The future stretched before them, vast as the desert, filled with endless horizons and whispered promises. The billionaire Sheikh and the woman who dared to stand beside him were no longer defined by past shadows. They were the architects of a new dawn, a dawn forged by truth, honor, and the enduring power of love. With the desert wind softly weaving through the tendrils of night jasmine, their hearts beat as one, strong, steady, and ready to face whatever storms lay beyond the rising sun.